anyone who knows me will tell you that languages aren't my forte, okay? I can barely English, so the expectation for me to speak any other language is absolutely insane. I mean, okay, hear me out. I'm not that bad. Like, I've got some skills. Like, listen to this, right? Mi amigo es biblioteca. You guys probably don't know what that means, but that basically means my friend is the best. Get it? Okay, I'm not that bad. I did take Spanish in high school, okay? 2 years, because, 2 years was all you really needed. And, for the third, I was kind of like, I'm not taking a third year of Spanish. I barely scraped by the second year. So expecting me to get by the third year of words, it's just not gonna happen. And okay, when I say I barely scraped past, I mean, I got a B in the class, okay? Like, I guess barely scraped by for some other people is probably a lot worse, but for me, that was my reality. And I had a lot of interesting times in this Spanish class, okay? So I didn't take it my freshman year because my parents kind of advised me not to. They're like, nerd. Oh, okay, water bottle. Oh, dude, you're gone, right? Get wrecked. So my parents advised me not to take Spanish my freshman year because it was like my first year of high school, and they're like, you don't need to add a language on your plate. It's probably going to be a lot anyway, so I didn't. The problem was everyone else in my grade basically took Spanish or another language their first year, aka their freshman year, so that's fun. So, while everyone's stressing about their new oral presentations, I'm kind of just sitting there like, imagine. Couldn't be me. Like, literally not me, because I didn't take those classes. But little did I know I would end up regretting that decision, because at the end of freshman year, we got straight into the pandemic. Woo! Which from a school perspective was awesome, at least for me. I mean, basically at that time, finals were canceled, school was basically canceled, no one knew what was going on, and no one had to do anything. Oh, shoot. So I was kind of jealous. I was like, man, like they had such an easy year for Spanish, but I guess I'll take it sophomore year, which was online, which don't get me wrong, that was pretty dope, okay? Like, I could just have Google Translator out when I need to. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm a good student, like legitimately. Like, I'm too much of a narc to like actually like full on cheat sheet. The only time I would have Google Translate or actually use Google Translate was when I absolutely needed to. Like, I'm talking, I had one of those teachers online where they would actively like to call on students. And for some reason, maybe it's because I actually talked with the teacher online, I was one of the favorites. So that came with its own variety of problems for that class because, my teacher called on me a lot. So that's why I didn't want to get it wrong and get embarrassed and yada, yada, yada. So for times like those, when I actually didn't know a word, I would use Google Translate and then I would know the word and then probably forget in the next 3 days, but we don't talk about that. So I absolutely love my teacher for Spanish for online. The class was super easy, not a big problem. A few stressful times where we had to do orals online, which really, realistically, wasn't that big of a deal. But like I was saying, I really like my teacher. The problem is I would soon figure out when I went to Spanish 2 in person the next year, my Spanish teacher taught a completely different curriculum than everyone else. I mean, I got into Spanish 2 and I thought I knew a lot. I knew nothing, bro. I knew like as, amos, and on, and it just, besides that, no, nothing. I knew nothing. So my teacher was very surprised and she's like, what teachers do you guys have? And we're like, blank. And she's like, oh, that explains it. See, so my teacher knew what was going on, which really only excused us from like the first week of class, because then she'd be like, oh, here, she'd tell us like what we're supposed to do and then expect us to just instantly master it. And that's not really how I learn. I don't know about you guys. So that kind of sucked, but you know what? It's fine because where did he go? Because I had a master plan to not fail, okay? Just, use my natural charm to get the teacher to like me, and then hopefully she'll take pity on me and notice I'm bad and then just not, give me the hard stuff. So that's actually exactly what happened, okay? I kind of sucked, but I was trying my best. So, she would call on me every once in a while, but she understood when I didn't know something, and she was really cool like that. The thing is, my biggest nightmare in that class was the oral presentations, because, dude, those would stress me out, okay? Listen, I'm weird. I love oral presentations. In, like, English class, in any class, I love where we get to sit in front of the class and we talk. That's, like, literally what I'm majoring in communications at college. It's something I like to do. Problem is, I only like that when I know what I'm saying, okay? If I don't know the words and I don't know how to speak fluent Spanish, Spanish, it's not fun. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing and I can't properly perform it. So I'm going up there just trying to get by the skin of my teeth. Like I said, my teacher knows I suck. So, she's not grading me as harshly. Like I'll just do like the littlest thing and she's like, oh my gosh, you did so good, Sean. I'm like, thank you. I literally did like nothing. I think one of my favorite memories to tell people in my Spanish class, probably one of my more embarrassing moments that I laugh off and try not to think too hard about so I don't get super embarrassed and, think about my troubles, was there's one time where we were taking a test in the class, okay? And I studied, I kind of was up, but it was like a vocab test. So I studied all the vocab. I'm like, this is going to be easy. Problem is, I like look at the vocab and I'm like, dude, why is none of these words on the study guide? So I studied all this stuff and like only like 2 of the words were actually on the test. I hate, first of all, I hate it when teachers do that because they do that all the time. Like I think any of you would know. Oh shoot. So I was like, dude, maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe I started the wrong thing. But then other people in the class started raising their hands and asking the teacher, they're like, hey, what's up? Like these weren't, we haven't learned these. You haven't taught us these words. And she looks in and she's like, oh, whoops. See, one thing about this particular teacher I had is she's really good at Spanish, but she's not a fluent English speaker. So like there'll be people like me in class who are fluent in English, by the way, not to brag, who literally tell her and teach her English words while she's trying to teach us Spanish. It's like, bro, that's not fair, dude. But whatever, right? It doesn't really matter, does it? Eventually the teacher like addresses the class and is like, yo guys, I goofed up, but just try your best, okay? I was like, try your best. So whenever I would quote unquote try my best in Spanish class, I always had the same strategy, okay? And honestly, it worked like 75% of the time in Spanish 1. I'm in Spanish 2 now, okay? And here's a little trick for you Spanish 1 people. When you're learning like the vocab and the words, like honestly, 70% of the time, it's just the English word with like an O or an A at the end for masculine or feminine. So literally, I think the Spanish word was sink. Pardon me if I was a little too confusing. Basically, the English word was written down on the paper for sink, and we had to write the Spanish translation. The problem is she's never taught us that, and we were even in the situation where our like native Spanish speaker that was like for some reason in our class, which like inevitably ended up like carrying everyone, like he was even kind of like, dude, shoot, what was sink again? So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, so she just expects us to guess. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's do it. I got a 50-50 here in just some weird situation. So I'm just going to try my best. So I write El Cinco, like S-I-N-K-O. Okay. And that was my best shot. That was my guess. And for those of you who don't know, who am I kidding? Most of you probably do. The language of Spanish is a very masculine and feminine language, which means like masculinity and femininity in words like are really important. So it was either going to be El Cinco or La Cinco for me. Okay, that's just how it's gonna go. And I was just like, dude, there's no shot this is right, but there's a chance. Okay, but then again, if it was as simple as that in hindsight, would everyone be struggling with it? I feel like people would get it a lot sooner. So when I wrote this down, I'm like, okay, time to get to the next question. Little did I know the teacher was right behind me. And because she was doing her sweep around and she looks down on my paper, and I'm not even joking you when I say this, she looks at El Cinco and she starts laughing. Bro, she starts just laughing right behind me, and everyone's like starts staring at the teacher because she's laughing in the middle of the test right when she walked like right behind me. And what she says, she's like, oh, okay, class, okay, I should let you guys know because I'm gonna be nice, it's not El Cinco. And I was like, bruh, and everyone starts laughing. It was like I felt like I was in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I don't know if I lived that down today. It was really funny in hindsight, but like, man, I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, I finished that Spanish class with a B, mostly just because of the fact that I think the teacher pitied me. And when we got to finals, it was like an oral part of it, and she gave like everyone these really hard big discussions back and forth, and she basically just gave me a super easy conversation, like 1-word answers, and I was like, whew, I'm a god. And some of you might be wondering what I put instead, because obviously I didn't keep El Cinco because I knew it was wrong. I just wrote La Cinca.
I'm